Welcome to Center of Light, everybody. Good to see you. Keith Anthony Blanchard here. Yanava on this. Oh, dear Lord, I don't know what day of the week it is. Oh, my God, let me see what it is. It's Thursday. It's a Thursday, y'all. I got to make an adjustment with my camera real quick. I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff while I'm doing that. Welcome to Center of Light Radio. I met this gentleman. What's going on with all this? Y'all going to see something crazy in a second. Give me a second. I'll get really bright. It's going to be bright as the sun. Hang on a second. Wow, that's bright. I met this gentleman last week, I believe it was, or a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, but we really didn't get a chance to talk a whole lot. And so we've been meaning to get together, have a little bit of dialogue. And somehow he said, hey, man, do you ever interview anybody in the martial arts? I said, sure enough can. So made contact with him. He sent me a profile. He lives near here, Memphis, Tennessee, Jonesboro, Arkansas. You go down 40 west. Go quite a ways. Take that big left, ride that little town right there. But he's a really nice guy. I'm looking forward to it. He doesn't know, not many people know that I am a black belt in the art of Tang Sudo. Left it alone many years. Got a little rock and roll crazy. I'm still going to make one more adjustment. That's my OCD kicking in. And it has its perks, believe it or not. It also has its downfalls. All right. So, everybody, I hope you're doing well. A lot going on in the world, more so going on inside of you. It looks like it's going on in the world, but it's not. You're always centered within inside yourself, hopefully. That's the gig. Remember, I always say my goal, my aim, my new mission statement is that we all need to become that. And no, I don't mean a glass ball, but we need to be as such, crystal clear with our mind. I'm sure my guest tonight, Dane's going to be talking a lot about the mind and how to become clear, centered, present, stable, and anchored. So with all this that's moving in the world, dictating to us, or trying to convince us of what the truth is, I hope you're finding yourself in a very powerful way that bucks all the nonsense that can happen anywhere in life, at any point of our life. Hello, everyone. Just a heads up. I've been doing presentations for so long, I'll always include the tribe. But when I do a radio interview, I may peek at the room and see someone's thrown out a nugget or a question. Maybe we can take questions here just a little bit. Hello, Nori. Hello, Claudia. Hello, Carla. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone on YouTube. Let's get down to some Center Light Radio beeswax. Tonight, my guest is Dane Dormio. I dropped his links into the forum, so make sure you stomp all over his stuff. Let me tell you a little bit about Dane. Dane Dormio is a martial artist and MindBody Mastery Mentor. Since his first spiritual awakening, here we go. I knew it connected somewhere at the hip. In 2004, he has dedicated his life to understanding and teaching the principles underlying optimal health and performance. Everyone, welcome my brand new friend, Mr. Dane Dormio. There we go.
Hello, Brother Keith. Good to see you.
Good to see you, bro. You doing well today?
I am.
So I wanted to save it to let you know in the air that I'm a black belt in Tang Sudo. For those who don't know what that is, it's Chuck Norris style. But I'm not as badass as he is. No, I'm teasing. I'm not a black belt. I did take Tang Sudo for a while. I got up to purple. There was this one little Korean guy in the class. I don't remember his name, but my instructor would always partner me up to him for sparring. And he would always kick me in my ribs, dude. He would do a cross step, literally, many feet. And in two moves, his foot was in my rib. And he would always look at me and hit his side. And I thought he was mocking me, making fun of me. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. And of course, I got all nervous around it. He kept telling me. Then finally, the sensei said, Keith, he's trying to tell you. You're leaving your side exposed. So what got you into martial arts? Was it this spiritual shift, brother?
No, not originally. Actually, what got me into martial arts was as a kid, I was a huge fan of the Ninja Turtles. Basically, I wanted to be a Ninja Turtle. So, I mean, I still do, actually. And we kind of have a connection through the Korean martial arts because the first martial art I was involved in was Taekwondo as a kid, 10 years old. I was so into the Ninja Turtles, my parents decided to sign me up for something, and um, so the nearest martial arts school was a chain Taekwondo school. That's what we had out in the backwoods of Arkansas, and it was the kind of place where I started at age 10, had a second degree had a black belt at age 12, second degree black belt at age 14, and after that I started to branch out into other things. But that was where my own martial arts journey started, and it was good for me in a lot of ways. Got me in good shape, laid some good groundwork and foundations for physical fitness and pursuing the martial arts. And the connection with spirituality came a lot later because I actually grew up as a rational, materialistic atheist in the Bible Belt and had no conception whatsoever of spirituality or spiritual awareness or anything like that. And I I was always a nonconformist. I never felt like I fit in where I came from. I used to wonder if I was even from this planet. Am I supposed to be here? What's the deal? But I majored in math and physics in college, and when I graduated from college, moved to San Diego for graduate school, and I was looking for new martial arts to do at that time. From the time I was 14 and branched out into other martial arts, and all through college, I'd studied Chinese martial arts, Japanese martial arts, Brazilian martial arts. I got really into capoeira the whole time I was in college. And so when I was in San Diego looking for new martial arts to learn, I found a school that was called the Kung Fu Academy. And I thought, well, that sounds cool, probably something new. I'll go check that out and see what that's about. And it turns out that this was a school that taught internal martial arts, largely based on the Tai Chi classics. And to clarify what that means, what most people think of as martial arts are external martial arts, meaning the emphasis is on physical fitness, calisthenics, and on the external results you're creating. So it's about jumping around, kicking high, doing backflips and acrobatics and all that kind of stuff. With internal martial arts, the emphasis is on what's going on internally, inside your own body, particularly sensation, what you're feeling and what you're doing inside your body. And so there's a largely meditative aspect. There's an integration of body, mind, and breath, of the movement with the breath. And this happened to be the right time in my life for me to start doing this. I had actually, and what most people think of is, I mean, the quintessential internal martial art is Tai Chi. That's what most people are familiar with, and what most people think of as Tai Chi is in old people moving slowly in the park early in the morning.
Yeah, in Bamboo Park.
That's right. Um, that's more generally that's a class of practices known as Qigong, which just means energy work. And Qigong is one of the three primary branches of traditional Chinese medicine. There's acupuncture, herbology, and Qigong. And there are three primary branches of Qigong, which are medical Qigong, martial Qigong, and spiritual Qigong. And internal martial arts, Tai Chi and other internal martial arts are essentially forms of martial Qigong. They're Qigong adapted for fighting or for self-defense. And I say this was the right time in my life for me to get into this because I actually had tried a Tai Chi class at one time when I was in college, and I found I didn't have the patience for it. It was just, moving really slow and breathing and concentration, and I was too amped up to really get into it. There was another experience that I had while I was in college that ties in here though, which was I majored in math and physics, but I went to a small private liberal arts school where you have to take some of everything. And the religion elective that I chose was Buddhism, which I enjoyed because, I mean, for one thing, it wasn't Christianity, but also I was always really into cool old stories and myths and stuff. Like I had I'd been really into the Greek myths as a kid. I found a copy of the Panchatantra lying around my house, and I read and enjoyed that sometime as a teenager, probably. I even found a copy of the Tao Te Ching, which is the seminal work of Taoism. And I read that sometime as an early teenager, and it just seemed like a bunch of gobbledygook. It didn't make any sense to me at all. By the time I had progressed through graduate school and I started getting into internal martial arts, I found a couple of profound things happen. One was when I started actually slowing down and focusing on sensation and breath and what was going on inside my body, I found that my martial arts got a whole lot better really quickly. It was as if it was kind of like for the previous 12 years, I'd been an enthusiast and I'd been collecting all the cool gear and the tools and all these moves. I could do all kinds of stunts and tricks and stuff, but I really couldn't have, I really couldn't fight my way out of a wet paper bag.
So you're saying at first it was coming from the space of mechanics, and then later it started to come from the soul, from the innards of your core. Would that be correct?
Uh, it wouldn't be wrong to say that. But I think it would be more accurate to say first it was coming more from a surface level appearance, and later it was coming from and the actual uh, inner mechanics. Because like I was saying, I couldn't fight my way out of a wet paper bag. I could do stuff with my own body. I could move and do tricks and stunts, but when it came to actually being in control of of myself, if a bigger, stronger person wanted to have their way with me, there wouldn't have been anything I could have done to stop them. And on some level, I knew it. And when I started to slow down and pay attention to what was going on inside, that was when I really got the mechanics of structure, equilibrium, fluidity, body unity, sensitivity, spontaneity. And that was when I really started to actually be able to apply physics in my favor and actually be in control of my body on a physical level. And it was as if I'd been collecting all these tools and I finally learned how to use them. I finally unlocked the skills that I'd been sort of collecting. And my my actual physical ability in martial arts took off radically, which was the whole reason I got into this. It was about, hitting someone hard enough that they would fall down and not get back up. But there was a particular moment one evening, a few months into this, when I was training on my own in my room in the evening, which I spent a lot of time doing at that period. I was pretty much at the school whenever it was open and class was going on. I was there. I was into it. I was really enjoying it. It was addictive in a certain way. And there was this particular moment one evening that I still recall with crystal clarity, where I was in my room practicing, and then all of a sudden, in a blink, everything changed. Everything in the whole universe was completely different. And at the same time, everything was completely the same. Nothing had changed at all. And the first thought that went through my head was, oh, that's what that was. That's what they were talking about. Because in this Buddhism class that I took, I learned all these cool old stories, including the story of Gautama sitting under the ficus tree and having the Satori experience, the instantaneous awakening, and then arising as the Buddha, the awakened one. And I recognized, kind of like if you had never seen a picture of a giraffe, but you'd read descriptions and you read stories, then you go on a safari and you see one for the first time, and you go, oh, that's what that is. I didn't even think that thing existed, but there it is. And it was like this experience that people spend years and decades of their life seeking and striving for, just kind of fell out of the sky and hit me in the head. And I was like, oh, where did that come from? Who ordered that? I didn't even believe in it, let alone seeking it out or trying to achieve it or anything like that. It just showed up. And there's a great analogy that I love using to describe what this experience is like. It's like, right now, can you see your nose in your own field of vision?
In my case, I can.
And well, before I asked you, could you see it? And that's what it's like for most people. You're not aware of it. It's not there. If somebody points it out to you, you look and you go, oh yeah, I can kind of see that. And then you realize actually you were seeing it. It was there all along. You just didn't know you were seeing it. And that's what it's like. So there was this experience has been described many times. It's happened to many people throughout history, and lots has been written about it. And one common theme is there are the three stages of the instantaneous awakening, which happens in an instant, and then there's the transient peak state, which is always transient. It never lasts forever. In my case, it lasted about 3 months, which is a pretty good run, and it was kind of like in that movie Limitless, about the little pill you take that unlocks the other 95% of your brain. It was like that for about 3 months, except it was on all the time, and there was no little pill involved. It was just like that. I had access to all of my perceptions, all of my memories, all these ideas and insights about the nature of reality and consciousness just started pouring out of my brain. I had all these insights about neural nets, and I never had even studied neural nets formally. I didn't even know I knew anything about them, but I was transcribing pages and pages of notes and theorems, and that was really cool and all. It was great. It was exciting. It went on for about 3 months, and then the third part of the experience is the residual awareness, which can never completely go away. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. The fundamental ground of reality. So this the internal martial arts and the qigong was what triggered, in my case, my first spiritual awakening. Little did I know, however, this was only the beginning of my problems.
Let me ask you this. Obviously, you saw the breadcrumbs, you saw the trail that led you to, not with me, but to this point in your life, because you stumbled into all these different things. Some of the books that you like allegories, you like stories, and it's the same with me. I love the Orient. My body's tattooed with Oriental. I love the Oriental food. I love martial arts. I love the architecture and all these things. Do you see that somehow, since you brought up awareness and you said, what would you call it? The dots. What was the last word you used to describe the net?
Well, I mentioned neural nets as in,
Neural nets.
yeah.
So obviously you see that in existence somewhere this was familiar to you, meaning past life stuff.
Well,
Question mark.
yeah, there's a lot that could be said about that. One thing I'm curious about is, are you familiar with transpersonal psychology and the work of Stan Groff?
No, give me an overview of the model.
Okay, yeah. Well, I definitely recommend anybody who's interested in this kind of thing definitely look into Stan Groff. He's the grandfather of transpersonal psychology, and he has created, in my experience, the most comprehensive cartography of the psyche in terms of mapping out the types of different types of transpersonal experiences that people can have. He was actually one of the he was clinically trained as a psychiatrist, and he was one of the first psychiatrists to experiment with LSD-assisted psychotherapy in the 1960s, and he did a huge amount of work with that over 10 years, and he eventually developed holotropic breathwork, which is often described as an acid trip without the acid.
Are you? Oh, hang on, hang on. You said he invented holotropic breath work.
Yeah, yeah,
Would
Steve
that
Jobs
be
developed
considered? Would
holotropic
that be
breathwork.
considered rebirthing, or is this a particular rhythm and cadence and particular formula of breathing?
It's well, there are many types of breath work. Rebirthing is a particular type of breath work. So it's not holotropic. There's rebirthing TM breath work and there's holotropic TM breath work. Um, Holotropic breath work is fascinating, and I'll suggest anybody who's interested to look into that. But it's not defined by the particular type of breathing. It's not defined by how you breathe. It's mostly defined by the container, as in it's done in a particular way. It's done in a workshop format with groups and partners, and it's not about breathing a certain way. It's about just relaxing into the state and allowing the body to breathe itself, allowing the breath to breathe itself, and it's facilitated by the set and setting. There's very loud music that accompanies it that's orchestrated in a particular way. These are the things that define holotropic breath work.
One of the first things I learned to do when I had an about to be seriously awake, and I was hanging around this guy. He was my drummer's best friend, and we'd go hang out at their house, and they're talking that weird metaphysical. I didn't even know that word then. That weird shit. And then I started learning some of it, and kind of thought it was interesting and cool. And so he says, Keith, why don't you come over on Sunday and let me do my thing to you? I said, all right, sure. So we did this. He taught me this rebirthing breath, and it's only one breath, but it triggered the same space that you just talked about. He said, how long does it take? He says, however long it takes. This particular way of shifting. He says, Keith, it can take, an hour, could take 2 hours, how long it takes. So I start breathing. And I'm going at it, and you want to stop, and he's like, let's go, keep on. So he's there as a coach and a support system. But what happens is the mouth wants to become metallic. There's a tendency to want to stop because the mind basically says, leave me alone, don't monkey with me. So it creates an itching on your skin. You just got to stay focused, got to stay focused, got to stay focused. And what happens after 10, 15 minutes of really pumping into it, the body takes over. And you get to just sit back into this blissful space of being. Is that sort of what happens to you when the body starts to kick in to the breath and you don't have to focus to where you can actually let go and be into the zone?
Well, yeah, that's certainly one thing that can happen. In my experience of holotropic breath work is, I found it very easy. Many people find it very challenging. As in, I just took right to it. But yeah, there are different types of breath work, and there's a lot of overlap, and the breath, is a very powerful tool. The breath is in many spiritual traditions, the breath is the gateway to the spirit, um, to expanded states of consciousness. So there's many modalities for that, and they all have their advantages, and it's like a buffet. You get to try different stuff and find what works best for you. But yeah, it is. Um, it can be it can be, as I said, holotropic breathwork is often described as an acid trip without acid. So if you have experience working with psychedelics, with sacraments, plant medicines of that sort, then it can be a very euphoric experience, or it can be a very challenging experience, or anything in between. And it's all a matter of what you are ready for at that time, what lesson is there for you to be learned. And it taps into the innate healing intelligence of the body to move whatever needs to be moved, to clear whatever needs to be cleared. And it's that sort of thing. I want to circle back around to your earlier question, Mark, because this is a really interesting thing about so-called past lives, and my the understanding I have of this. I mean, I actually realized I had a realization about this at a very young age, before any of this happened. Kind of like, oh, there's just one consciousness. It's like consciousness is like an operating system. Like you have, all these different computers all over the world. They're all running Windows, and but it's just one Windows. It has different programs installed and different stuff on the hard drive, but it's just Windows. And consciousness similarly is like an operating system. It's booted up in this brain and that brain, but it's just consciousness. And when I first realized that, it was just a very intellectual thing. But among the realizations that I've had following on my initial spiritual awakening is there's just one of us here. There's just one consciousness, and we are all it. And so, and Stan talks about this, and this is the reason I mentioned him in the context of past life experiences, because transpersonal psychology is the branch of psychology that studies the experience beyond the individual, so beyond the individual isolated consciousness, and this includes things like experiences of being other beings, of being stars or galaxies or mountains or plants or animals or other people in a past life. And there's tons of evidence on the past life experience phenomenon in particular. Past life regression is a very common thing in hypnotherapy, and whether you quote unquote believe in it or not, it's documented that things happen. Like if you're a hypnotherapist, you see things like someone might have, say, a phobia of knives, and then you take them deep into state and ask, where does this originate? And they go back a little ways and they had some traumatizing experience, and they go back even further to childhood and they had a traumatic experience, and then they go back even further. And in transpersonal psychology, the stages are the individual biographical consciousness, and everything you remember up to the time you were born. Then there's the prenatal consciousness, the stuff that you experienced before you were born but still in the womb. And then going back even further, there's past life experiences, and a person might relive an experience where they were a traveling merchant in Europe, and they were attacked on the road by bandits and they were stabbed to death, and they relive that experience. They process the trauma, and they come back, and they no longer have that phobia. So whether you believe that actually happened or not, it's a valid therapeutic protocol. It works. And what Stan says about this is, if you believe you are only your solo, this one individual consciousness in this one lifetime, that's a pretty limited perspective. And if you expand that perspective to say, okay, well, I also experienced these other lifetimes as other human beings, well, that's an expanded perspective, but it still is limited in the sense that you are seeing yourself as this sort of individual soul that moves through different lifetimes. And when you really see the big picture, it's like I'm sitting here talking to me, looking back at me, and I am everybody. We are everybody in all lifetimes, past, present, and future, in 5D space.
I've had that experience. I understand it linearly. We call it past lives. You could have been yanked from an experience that you yet linearly have lived. So it didn't matter the timeline. Abraham Lincoln is still alive, right? And so, but I have had the experience, my bro, and I was the movie projector in the theater. You go to Malco, and there's 20 theaters down all these hallways. Well, I was really the lens, the bulb, and going, wow, look at all these different realities that I'm a part of. And I was asking myself, why am I super hyperfixed and hyperfocused on this particular one? And again, down the tube I go and find myself waking up in my bed. But yeah, it's all happening right now. It's not like we're bouncing around linearly. It may have that appearance as long as we're dwelling in these lower realities, even if these lower realities that I just described may have some height to them. But the more you get higher up into the system, all that noise, I'll use that word, my two words of noise and nonsense. The noise of it all begins to fall away because there's no more distortions of light that seem to even separate one from his own mind.
Yeah, and that being said, there's just one consciousness, and we are all it. Um, and at the same time, there is this really interesting phenomenon of certain memories are more prominent than others. Certain, you can go into some kind of state working with plant medicines or shamanic techniques or breath work, various ways, and you might have an experience of a particular lifetime that may be in the past, may be in the future. Um, and we can have particular affinities. I certainly feel like I have an affinity for Asian culture. And, I'm pretty sure in a pretty closely connected series of lifetimes, I was a samurai and a ninja and a monk. And that's just a particular fascination that I have. But on the deepest level, there is only one single consciousness in the entire universe. It's just consciousness.
I get it. I love it. And what's really cool is when you have such an awareness. And I don't mean just, well, I understand the idea. That's awesome. If you have the understanding level, congratulations. But the more you can begin to integrate that kind of who you are, your own consciousness, there's something else. There's another language that begins to happen. And I'm sure this is part of that awakening that you experience it. What this other language is, it's that, like you said, it's right under your nose. It's always been there. You just can't see it, whether that seeing is with the eyes, or with the ears, or with your awareness base. But once you start really integrating and playing in that field, we realize that you only have to barely tickle the spider web to have something truly powerful happen versus, picking up a rock and trying to smash something into being. Would you agree with that? I mean, even in your martial arts, I'm sure that you can make a lot less maneuvers in a situation and be more effective than, balls to the wall all out.
Totally. That's such a huge thing in internal martial arts, and there's a couple of stories uh, that I mean, in just in I mean, there's a lot of stories that come out of the martial arts, especially the Chinese martial arts. Chinese love old stories of the ancient masters, but the most highly renowned Tai Chi masters, people would speak not of their great strength and power, although they were very powerful. People would speak of their incredible sensitivity, how incredibly sensitive they were. And one story from the Tai Chi classics is of a Tai Chi master who would let a bird land on his arm, and then the bird couldn't take off again because he was so soft that when the bird would try to push down with its little feet to push up, he would move down just very gently, and the bird couldn't actually generate any thrust pushing upwards, so it couldn't take off. And there's a saying sayings like the touch should be so light that you could trap a butterfly without harming it. Like you could trap the wings of a butterfly without harming it. That's how light and sensitive the touch should be. And
I would think as sensitive and as soft and as fragile and delicate a master could be to do exactly what you just said. Being in such control, that might not be the right word, being in such state of presence and awareness, the delivery of an actual full force hit must be just ridiculous. Or in fact, they probably don't get in situations where they get hit. That's part of the mastery, right?
that's true. But from a physical force level, it's the sensitivity is just a synonym for awareness. We think you mentioned fragile. It's not fragile. The metaphor actually is from the Tai Chi classics is steel wrapped in cotton.
Ooh, that's lovely.
And it's very soft and it's yielding, but that's not the same thing as being weak. In fact, it's the opposite. And if you thinking about it from the physics perspective, what's more effective, an immense force or an immense leverage? A small amount of force efficiently applied in the right place. And so that's the nature of Tai Chi power. Is it's not like this unstoppable avalanche. It's like it's like this tiny force that you just can't resist. And I had a beautiful illustration of this with one of my teachers who was, when I first met him, he was in his 70s, and he had some really severe health challenges. He had to wear a colostomy bag around under his shirt all the time because he'd lost his intestines, half his intestines, and a bunch of innards to colon cancer. I didn't know this when I first met him. All I knew was the first time I did push hands with him. Push hands is like the two-person Tai Chi exercise. He was able to move me all around the room with just the lightest of touches. Just barely touching, just barely pushing on me, but I wasn't able to resist because of where and how he was able to apply the force.
Dane, it sounds like to me two sides of the same coin. Maybe you can help me hone in on the correct words. It sounds like there is one word that comes to me is an allowance and influence. It's like there's an influence, but also an allowing, like maybe another word would be grace.
Grace is a great word for this kind of thing. Uh, I mean, it's also very similar to the word prowess. Um, it's it's a sort of harmonization. You in order This is a principle from the seven habits of highly effective people. In order to influence, you have to be influenced. You have to be open to being influenced yourself in order to influence others.
That sounds like both of them, allowance and influence. So it's an influence, as I said, or brought up the idea that in order to be an influence, you have to be influenced. So that would be an allowance. When you say that's kind of the shake hands deal, that as the master or the person who is becoming a lumen to this possibility, that they're able to move within this duality to where they can truly affect it.
Yeah, and another way of putting it is a Tai Chi master doesn't defeat his or her opponent. They allow their opponent to defeat themselves.
It's just beautiful. It's just like this poet. It is. It's poetry. Were you a fan of Kung Fu Panda?
I love those movies. They're so
Skadoosh.
great. They're so great. Yeah. Oh, I love them. I love them.
Dude, I'm really digging this conversation because it's a new field of spirituality for me. I've always loved it. Like I said, I love the movies. I love the art. I love the architecture. I love the food. I love martial arts. I just loved everything about it. So, have you ever made a trip to the Orient or India, where it came from? Actually, right? The original martial arts, didn't it come from South India for
Uh,
fighting animals? No, correct me if I'm
well,
wrong.
okay. This is a great question. So,
Right?
yeah. I have lived in Bangkok, in China, and in Nepal, and so related to your question. So this is the story of where pretty much all Chinese martial arts came from. Not from India actually, but from Nepal. The Buddha Gautama was born in Nepal, and I'm pretty sure he lived in northern India for part of his life, but um, he was actually born in Nepal, and his teachings spread many places. Of course, the figure who's given credit for transmitting Buddhism to China is Bodhidharma, who traveled through Nepal on the way to China, of course, and he encountered the monks at this particular temple that would where the monks practiced a lot of sitting meditation, and and they were probably highly developed in their states of consciousness, but their constitution was very weak. They were physically weak. They were, experiencing a lot of stagnation. So he taught them this set of exercises to strengthen their constitutions. And that set of exercises was what one name for it is the 18 Lohan Palms. And that monastery is what eventually developed into the Shaolin Monastery, which is the root, the origin of uh, of, of most of Chinese martial arts, and the other origin being Wudang Mountain, which is the origin of Taoism, which is the the other tradition that I have a huge connection to. Because something I didn't mention previously telling this story is when I had that spiritual awakening, one of the transformations that took place was I something called me to pick up the Tao Te Ching again, and I picked it up and read it. The same edition that I had read years ago when I was maybe 13 or so, and it all made complete and total sense to me. It was just crystal clear, perfect clarity, as if I was sitting down in the same room with whatever uh, person or entity or open source collaborative effort authored that work. And this was when I came to identify as a Taoist, not through like a choice or something like that, but just through a sense of recognition. Oh, this is the word for that. This is what that's called. And through practicing the physical practices, Tai Chi and Qigong, this is how I consider myself to be a practicing Taoist, because these are, uh, you know, these practices have their origin in the philosophy of Taoism. But getting back to the story of Bodhidharma transmitted Buddhism from India to China via Nepal, and planted the seeds of what would become the Shaolin Temple. And so that's to a very large extent where Chinese martial arts came from. And there's also another really interesting connection here that I learned pretty recently when I did a Vipassana course, which for those who might not be familiar, a Vipassana course is a 10-day silent meditation retreat. It's designed to give you an experience of what it's like to live as a monk, where for 10 entire days, you actually arrive on day 0 and you leave on day 12. So it's 10 whole days of no talking, no reading, no writing, no electronics of any kind, no substances of any kind, uh, very minimal vegetarian meals. If it's your first course, if it's the first course you go to, you have a breakfast and a lunch, and you're allowed to have some fruit for dinner. If you're a returning student, it's no dinner. And you basically it's 8 hours per day of seated meditation, and with teaching and guidance. Um, and and the story behind the Vipassana meditation technique is that this is the original meditation technique taught by Gautama the Buddha. And not to spoil it for anybody. If this sounds cool to you, you should totally do it. It totally is. But the technique, it's basically you sit there and you take your awareness inside your body and feel your body sensations. Feel the inside of your body. Feel your body. Feel your body. Feel your body. That's what it is. And this is what the Buddha taught, that if you just the actual truth, reality is not out there, it's in here. It's what you directly perceive through direct awareness of body sensation. And I can confirm from my own experience, because this is exactly what happened to me when I started moving slowly, breathing, paying attention to what I'm feeling, focusing on body sensation, internal awareness. And this thing happened to me. There's no guarantees, but yeah, there really is something to that just closely and directly and meticulously feeling what's going on inside your body, your direct conscious experience, is at least a gateway, if not the gateway, to spiritual awakening and higher states of awareness. There really is something to that.
Are you interested in telekinetics?
Uh,
I
I,
mean,
I
because
guess
a lot of people who dabble in this kind of energy, not because they're doing it for a party trick or anything like that, they're beginning to wield this kind of energy as a validation of. You get what I'm saying? I just thought maybe you had an interest in telekinetics. There's this guy. He's on Facebook. He has a page, and it's called Max Telekinetics, Max Telekinesis. Check him out. The guy's fantastic. Even for a wow factor. If you like wow factors, he's really, really cool. He's the real deal. Just question volley to you. Just curious to know if you are interested in such things.
well, that sort of stuff certainly is interesting. I would say for myself, I'm more interested in the sort of stuff that ordinary people can do that isn't like magic in that sense. As in just like regulating your own mind body energy systems through regulating the through body regulation, breath regulation, mind regulation, the three regulations of qigong, like boosting health, wellness, and longevity, emotional stability, having vibrant health, a strong, healthy body, having good relationships. Um, that the sort of thing that ordinary mortals can aspire to. Not saying that, there isn't stuff like levitation and telekinetics and all that, but I really think, and I think a lot of the spiritual teachers would say this also, that that sort of thing can very easily be a distraction. Eh,
Absolutely. I was just speaking novelty just to see if you had any hobbies. Let me ask you this real quick. I've been posting your links all night. 7 day Qigong challenge. Is that what you're referring to now? This particular thing you were last speaking of?
Well, yeah, actually, that is something I want to be sure to talk about because um, what a big part of my mission in life is to help anyone who wants to establish their own personal daily mind body energetic hygiene practice, because this is something we can all aspire to. I mean, everybody knows by now, had the importance of exercise for health, wellness, longevity, performance enhancement, stress reduction, immunity, of course, and likewise for meditation, important for all the same reasons, as well as spiritual exploration. And breath work is something people are becoming more aware of for health, wellness, longevity, performance enhancement, spiritual exploration, stress reduction. And and these are things that I believe we all need. That's why I call it energetic hygiene. We all need this on a daily basis, just like we need plenty of sleep and water and micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. But most of us still aren't getting these things. And I want to live in a world where everybody does this. Like, if you can believe it, there was a time before people brushed their teeth. That used to not be a thing, and then it was a thing. And I want to see the world transition in the same way, where it just becomes a normal part of being human, that that everybody has whatever kind of personal daily mind body practice they find most rewarding and suitable. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. You don't have to do 2 hours of Sita meditation every day like they tell you to do in the Vipassana course. It can be something as easy as 15 minutes. And the reason that Qigong is so great is that the basic recommendation that I give to everyone is 5 to 15 minutes, or as long as you feel like, 1 to 3 times a day, or as often as necessary, 5 to 7 days a week, for the rest of your life, or forever, whichever comes first. And it's it's what I call a balanced mind body practice, because the basis of Qigong is the non exertion principle, which says don't force, don't strain, don't overexert, don't try too hard. And the pleasure principle, which says if you're doing it right, it feels good, do it in a way that feels good for you. And the three regulations: body regulation, breath regulation, mind regulation, i.e., exercise, breath work, and meditation, all rolled into a single activity. So it's the good kind of multitasking. I mean, for a daily 15-minute practice, you get your exercise, your breath work, your meditation in at the same time. It's a very efficient use of time. And that group you mentioned is a free group that I created to help anyone who wants to establish some kind of practice like this. Because I know there are a lot of people who are shooting on themselves. They want to start exercising, or they want to start meditating. They want to start doing something like this. And it's called the 7-Day Qigong Non-Challenge because it's designed to be so easy, there can be no excuse not to do it. If you want to do something like this, you don't know where to start, this is a great place to start. It's a series of 7 videos. They're 15 to 20 minutes long. They're designed to watch and follow along with one per day. There's nothing to memorize, no previous experience required. And my bet is that if you just watch and follow along with one 15 to 20-minute video per day for 7 days, and it's okay to skip a day or two even, it doesn't even have to be 7 consecutive days, but just start doing it. And my bet is you'll get hooked. It'll feel so good, you won't want to stop. Because if you really do this practice, it's like taking a pill. It's like the medicine doesn't work unless you take it. You have to take it, but it takes a little time. It takes 15 minutes, which is longer than it takes to swallow a pill, but it will immediately change your state, change how you feel, and there's no side effects. It's all upside, no downside. You can do it yourself anywhere, anytime. It's non-strenuous, suitable for people in any stage or a stage of life or physical condition, whether you are weak or ill or injured or recovering, or if you're already in great physical shape and a high performer, this will just take you to even higher levels. So that's my offering to the world, to make it easy for anybody who wants to have something like this. If you're not already doing something like this, this is a great place to start. And if you want to continue, there's a whole series on YouTube, 90 Days of Qigong. You can follow it for up to 90 days. We have an online learning community you can join if you want to go.
How do they follow that page, my brother? How do they find that page in YouTube? Under what title?
It's go to the 7-Day Qigong Non-Challenge, and the videos are all there. And
that link is in the forum, everybody. I posted it yet again. Tonight my guest is Mr. Dane Dormio. We've been talking about martial arts and mind-body mastery, bro. We only got a few more minutes, but I sure really did enjoy my time. I'd love to do this again with you, and maybe you and I can do a little talk about. I mean, I really like what you're doing, man, because right now I think everybody's needing a something. One, we're getting stagnant. It's easy to get stagnant in something like this. How did we know? We never had one before. But I think my son is going to be interested in this. He took martial arts for a little while, and he mentioned to me, as soon as we're out of quarantine, he wants to take martial arts here on Summer Avenue, a Kung Fu class, Kung Fu school, right down the street, a couple of miles down the road at most. Is there anything you would like to leave us with, my dear friend, my brand new brother, to bring them into your work, to be a part of their experience, and why you're here sharing your heart about what you do?
Yeah, well, definitely that if this calls to you, join the group. It's a supportive community. We'll welcome you. We'll encourage you. We'll celebrate your progress and your success. Everything that you need to get started is there. And I also wanted to let people know that it's not just like 7 days and that's it. If you want to go further, if you want to go deeper with your practice, we have an online learning community you can join, where you can get where we have lots more pre-recorded content, as well as live online group classes, individual support and guidance. So what's out there for free is the minimum that you need to get started. And some people do, they just start with that and they develop the habit and they keep it up, and it's great because there's more people out there in the world doing it. If you want to go deeper and you want more support and guidance, we're here to support you in that as well. So if one person sees or hears this and their life is improved by it, I'll feel like I'm accomplishing my mission. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share this message, and yeah, I'd love to continue the conversation anytime you're ready.
Do you still take martial arts? Do you teach it? Do you got that enough for a while to where you do it? Well, you're doing your thing in the house, right? But just before this and after this, are you going to teach, or are you still pursuing it from other masters of higher belt degrees?
Yeah, well, martial arts is still a big part of what I do. The system that I teach is called martial energetics, and the Qigong is a part of it.
Hold on. That's phenomenal. Say that name again. Martial energetics.
Yeah, martial
That's
energetics.
Really cool. I love it.
And martial
Please
energetics
continue.
martial energetics combines the internal energy work for health, wellness, performance enhancement, along with practical self-defense. And it's not a traditional lineage. It's a modern synthesis. That's also a big part of what I do. If you are lucky enough to be in San Diego, that's where we're teaching, at least once the quarantine is lifted. And I also do one-on-one coaching in mind-body mastery practices generally, and really what I call it is stress relief coaching, because it's about there's two ways to reduce stress. One is through the internal work, the meditation, breath work, regulating your own physiology, that sort of thing. And the other way is actually addressing and solving the problems that are stressing you out. So I also do one-on-one coaching that's around creating the life that you want to create using these mind-body mastery tools.
I really enjoyed my time with you, sir. Thank you very much for enlightening me on your heart, bro. That's really, really cool. I would love to have you back. And, I usually rotate my guests every 3 months kind of thing. Let me know if something new comes along, something you want to share. I have a group and they're pretty loyal. So, thank you for joining,
Oh,
bro. I really do.
I
Yeah, come on.
I
Come on,
can't
what you got?
believe I can't believe I didn't think of this. This Saturday, 2 days from now, huge event. I've been working on this all week. It's World Tai Chi and Qigong Day this Saturday, April 25th. It's an 8-hour live streamed event starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can find links to that on my profile, also in the group. We have 16 of the most well recognized and respected Tai Chi and Qigong instructors coming together for this 8-hour live stream event. It's going to be amazing. It's free and open to the public. And if you want to get an introduction to this stuff, that's a great way to do it. If you've ever wanted to try Tai Chi, now is the perfect time. So you're welcome to join us for the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day 2020 online summit this Saturday.
Many, many years ago, 1992. Who was the Tai Chi guy, the Oriental guy, the Japanese guy? He was back in the video VHS tape days. He,
Well, there might have been Master Yang.
I think that was him. I had some for a while. I'll just have to throw that out there. Bro, thank you again for being here on Center Light. Everybody, Keith Anthony Blanchard, my guest tonight, Mr. Dane Dormio. We're speaking about martial arts and mind-body mastery. Slowly but surely going to get back into Center of Light Radio. I had to take a break. I had to get out some juice of my soul. I love you. Always stay in the light. You are made of light. If you weren't, no one could see you. You'd be invisible or either dead, but you're not. You're very much alive. Like my guest tonight said, breathe in, plant yourself, become aware of who you are and how it permeates your entire being, your entire body. Simply just be that. Watch what else happens. Peace, love, and you're loved beyond measure.